yeah, because I'm streaming both our voices. Actually, it looks like it's running. That's really cool. Yep. Actually, it looks like it's running. Yeah, it's running. Sweet. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so live. Good. Okay, so I've got my awesome shirt on, which is like Real Men Love Cats. My wife bought it for me.
I saw that shirt the other day. It's a very nice shirt.
I'm like, it's such a great shirt. Check it out. It's like Real Men Loves Cats. Like, that's so cool. See? Like, yeah, anyway. Alrighty. Anyway, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to have a bit of fun with, we're going to have some fun with PowerShell. So, like I said before, we're going to, like, we've basically done the covering of all the bits and pieces. So, kind of looked at looping and things like that. There are some things I did omit. I did kind of exclude just for the sake of kind of getting through the session because we'd just be there all day. And I kind of wanted to keep it as somewhat as brief as possible. So in this instance, this lesson, we're actually going to be doing some really cool things. We're actually going to be writing some code to facilitate one of my open source projects at the moment, which I'm kind of working on the side, which is a product called PlexG. So PlexG is a bit of an open source product that basically allows me to have additional users and user management on top of it. We're not going to particularly we don't really need to worry about all the bits and pieces about PlexG, but we just kind of need to kind of worry about what we're going to be doing today. So, alrighty, so what we're going to do is we're going to get stuck into it. And the first thing we're going to do is Michael is going to open up some code and we're going to basically go through some of those bits and pieces that we did before. So I just need to rip open some code, and obviously you can follow along with me. At the same time, I'm going to get you to write some code as well, so you're not kind of just sitting there and just listening. You actually can provide input. Obviously, don't also ask tons and tons of questions because they're always great. Let me just also make sure I got the chat box up, so if anyone actually anyone actually listening to this can ask some questions as well. So let's get stuck into it. All right, first things first. So what we're going to be doing in this specific PowerShell script is we're going to be creating some users. So it's basically pretty much very, very simple script, but it's still quite an important script. So we're not going to be focusing too much on all the semantics around it because right at this point in time you don't particularly it's just going to be a little bit over your head. But for understanding how it works, we're going to the actual functionality behind it. That's fairly basic. So while it's fluffed up, it seems to be you're probably going to look at it and go, oh man, there's so much fluff on this, it's not funny. That's fine because basically what we're doing is I'm kind of building out I'm building out bits and pieces here and there. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're creating so we're going to be creating a user. So one of the things I'm going to do is just add some extra parameters in here. So remember how we're talking about parameters in a commandlet?
Yes.
So when you do get child item, or get console. Yeah. Oh, actually, can you see my? So if you do a get, a get child item is actually a great example, and each of these are basically parameters. So your literal path. Whoops. That's basically your parameters. So what we're going to do here is we're creating a user. So I need to pass some extra items into there. So details that basically can be accepted. What I'm working on here is what we call a param block or a parameter block. Username. I think that's all I really need. Hang on a sec. I've just got to kind of have a look at the JSON configuration. Just going to put up another instance of Studio Code on another screen so I can just kind of follow through what I'm doing. I kind of usually I'd have it on the same tab, but because we're streaming, I don't particularly want to do that. So I've just got so many libraries left, right, and center. It's just not funny. So in this instance, what I'm going to find once I select the correct folder and I find my bits and pieces, scripts.
So if you were to run the script, it should come up with the requirement for you to say create the username and create the password, or
Correct. So it'll create the user according to and we would specify the template what we put into it. So what I'm going to do is just this. So we're just going to be creating a username and password kind of product. It's very basic, but at least it'll help you kind of like visualize it. So we got this what we call JSON here. I'm just pasting a JSON. This is my my Mr. T account. Speaking of that, I just need to go and change that password so no one can go mess with me. Give me 2 seconds. I don't like it. It's nothing like really bad, but it's just something that I quickly need to do.
oh no, I understand. After all, it's something that, as a matter of security, needs to be changed.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really terrible password, as you can see.
So you're putting N1 as equally as terrible.
Oh yeah, it's still terrible. Like there's nothing really like in terms of risk, but it's just obviously I like it to
But
have a bit of security there. So all
all
right,
you're
so
really trying to do at the moment is create a test account. So
yeah, well this is what it's going to do. Yeah, we should actually well we're going to create a test account using this. So one of the things we're going to do is we're basically going to create our test account. This is going to be quite interesting because we're going to use this as our template. This is a JSON file. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, which is basically it's a clear text format that is allowed contains data sets and information that allows PowerShell to read it and provide to basically convert it into an object. PowerShell is really good for that. PowerShell is actually really good for that. So PowerShell natively converts to and from into JSON, so we're actually going to take advantage of that. And we're going to create this file. And this file is just going to be a static JSON file. I just smashed the mic there. It's going to be a static JSON file. There's no real it's not an SQL database or anything like that. So it's actually it's readable in clear text, which is really cool because it's like we can actually go and have a look at that later. Just give me 2 secs. I just got to move some bits and pieces around. Okay. Not that one, that one, that one, that one. Scripts, data, users. I'm just going to move them out. Actually, I'll just put them in a subdirectory. Users. Put that there, put that there, put that there, put that there. Actually, I'll just put that out there. There we go. Okay, cool. Alrighty. So we're going to create a data set. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to actually we've got to work out where we're writing files and do all that kind of stuff. So what I mean by that is we need to work understand where we are in the file structure, where are we being executed in C users or decode plexget, are we being executed in C system 32, oh sorry, C Windows system 32. So we need to understand our path. What we're going to do here is I'm just going to add a bit of semantics. So first thing I'm going to do is just do this. I'm just going to build the top of my thing. A lot of my code's cookie cutted, so you're just going to see me copy and pasting code in here.
it's fairly normal.
Yes. So this script will ultimately become an Azure runbook, which means it's going to be running this line of code. But for the time being, we don't need to run that line of code because it just won't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to just run this line here. So sorry, this line here. So what we're going to do is
just one thing I noticed from looking at your script up around here.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Wouldn't it be better to have as a secure string?
Okay, so this is where we're talking about secure strings and strings. Secure strings are used for things like passwords, like you said there. In this instance, it is better practice to do that. But the thing is that from the way that the script is run, it's going to be called from an endpoint that doesn't have the capacity to create a secure string. So what that means is that basically it'll ingest that secure string type and then basically go and just break, because the endpoint that's triggering this, the product that's triggering this just doesn't have the capacity to have a secure string. Now, that being said, that's fine. You could actually go one step further, and we could actually go, well, we could just go, let's just get rid of that, and we can just generate a password. So we're actually keeping it even more secure. So that's actually a good observation. We probably can just remove that, and we can just generate a password, which is, again, that's not that hard to generate, like in terms of to write a program to generate that. But let's get back onto it. So what we're going to do is we'll fix this up later. We're just going to be working with this. So now we've got this what we call configuration server.json file. That's important. It's not overly important in terms of what we need to do in terms of the outcomes, but I'm just going to quickly just paste some extra stuff in here from a cookie cutter. So this is basically testing, does this file exist? Like we said, we're testing if this function library exists. We're going to load in a whole bunch of supporting PowerShell scripts using what we call a DotSourcing method. And basically what DotSourcing is it's what it does is you've got another PowerShell file sitting out in out there. If you know the path, what you can do is you can put that dot, what we call a dot point. And what PowerShell does when it sees that dot point, it actually goes and executes that code and brings it, but that code that's being executed is being executed in this session. And what that means is that basically you have a whole bunch of supporting libraries out in the, like, sitting out there, and you can just have them executed and brought in. It's really good to do that because, sorry mate, it's really good to do that because what you can do there is you can actually, by doing that, you can keep your script structure much smaller. And these are things, and when we're talking going into what we call functions and things like that, because these are just functions. If you have to run if you have a code block that you're running more than once, so let's say you've got let's say you've got a piece of code that's being executed like 20 times, and it's being executed 20 times all over the script, it actually makes better sense to make that a function and then call the function, because basically, one, it simplifies the code, so you don't have to manage all those 20 different areas, but at the same time it's just actually simpler to track as well. So with Visual Studio Code and things like that, I can just go to that function, hit F12, and that basically basically says to Visual Studio, take me to that function, and then I can just start reading it. So it's the code editor supports all those kinds of features, which is really good, because it means that from a debugging point of view, or from a code writing point of view, you're writing the most efficient code up front. In this instance, we're just triggering that we're bringing all those items in there. So there's a whole bunch of supporting bits and pieces that we're going to be using from there. We're going to be calling functions, but you don't really need to know about them at this point in time. That's something that obviously you're just learning at, breaking into PowerShell. So let's get back into it. I loved your PowerShell. Like, yeah, you just trigger shutdown computer. Oh no, restart computer. I'm like, love it.
Oh yeah, I mean, the only difficulty I've got is when I tried to execute it on the computer as a test.
It shut down your computer.
No, it was an unsigned script, and on top of that, when you double click on it, it opens a notepad.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's because it's basically being executed in the wrong type. Lol.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, I thought that it's a .ps1, but for some reason .ps1 is also configured to open a notepad.
Oh, that's still funny. That's so funny. That's so funny. If you want to run it, like what you can do, just FYI, so what you do, if you really want to troll somebody, and it's all those guys out there, because like, I love to troll, you just go PowerShell.exe, and then you can actually like write that straight out, and then I think it's command, And then from here, you can just go force. I think it's restart computer. Is it restart computer? I thought it was. Yeah, restart computer. I thought there was like a parameter to shut it down.
Yeah, see, the way I was doing it,
Mm.
if you don't mind, was
Yeah.
so I'd written out my whole blurb under right host, and then essentially oh shit, it's run away on me. There it is. I piped that into
Oh yeah.
-t, and then I put 3-minute timer on it.
Yep.
Like that.
Yep. Okay. So shutdown is a command prompt command.
Yep.
So I'm not going to do it because I don't want to lose my stream. But basically, if you're triggering that because you're using a pipe, you've got a pipe there. So a pipe basically is telling the PowerShell pipeline that you're doing a write host. Remember, when you write host, you got a write host like so. Hello world.
Yeah.
It also helps if I can spell. So once you've done that, then basically, rather than using a pipe, because pipe's basically telling PowerShell, I want to take the output from this commandlet and then pipe it into here. That's going to cause issues. I actually have never tested it, to be honest.
Well, it did work when I ran it as a script.
Yep.
The only issue was, like I said, it would try naturally execute in Notepad, so
Yeah.
it did work.
Oh, okay.
But it's just how it was executing.
Okay, yeah. So in that instance, if you want it to execute, there's two ways you can do it. One, you can just basically run PowerShell.exe and then run your command and then just run it that way. So you can just go write host. To be honest, I would just be like,
essentially save it as a batch script.
no, you wouldn't even need to run it as a batch script. You can just run PowerShell straight out and then call it from that.
The problem is I want it to execute when the file is opened from a double click.
Yeah, so what you can do is create a desktop shortcut.
Yeah, the thing is when you do it, you upload it to the assessment server.
Yeah.
And then they'll download it to check your work.
Oh, okay. So you want to put it inside a PS1 file, but they're like, yeah, okay. Whatever you do, don't piss off your instructors. Like, still funny.
I know that. Yeah. It was only going to be a one-off, but I mean, like, it's a bit dull at the moment.
Oh, okay. putting it lightly.
Yeah, I've completed all the labs we're meant to do. So I'm about 3 weeks ahead of the class. I've completed the assignment for the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh, okay. Yep. So you're fairly in it, like you're fairly like on the ball.
Yeah, so it's just that, but
it's just boring.
Yeah, I just wanted to have a bit of a joke.
Because
you can still read it, but there's a timer on it.
Yeah, so yeah, if they were smart enough, they could just abort it. So yeah,
exactly.
True. Yeah, true. Okay. All right. So what we can do is see if. Okay. Yep. Sweet. So, I think what we can do now is we can have a bit of a look at the next couple of things what we need to do. So I'm just going to chuck some more cookie cutter code in here because we don't really need to talk about that. The cookie cutter code. I've just loaded that. I need to validate. Are we up to pre-main? We've validated. We've .source. I'm just going to drag the whole lot in. So I'm not even going to authenticate at this point in time. I can write an authentication method later. So I've just bumped that piece of code in there, as you can see.
Yep.
We've doubled that up because I've retarded it. So I've just done that. So basically what I've done is I've pretty much just broken it down into its specific items. So it just means that like from a readability point of view, you're like, this is nothing, like it's important, but it's like if you know where there's a specific issue within PowerShell. So if you know there's like, okay, I've got an issue with I have an issue with, for example, this part of the script, you can basically just go, all right, it's not that, because based on, I'm trying to write an output here, and you're like, dude, it's just loading content. It's not something that's super super crazy. So let's keep going, dude. So what we got now is we've got our. We're gonna start now. We're just gonna ignore all the authentication. I do have to put some auth in here. To do add. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have some fun. So first thing we need to do is we're actually going to build an object. We're going to fill it full of some good data, and then we're going to write that file out. So it's actually a 3-step process.
Okay.
Fairly basic. Fairly basic. I'm just having a quick look at one of the supporting libraries because I'm wondering if I can. Well, what I'll do is we'll write it out physically and then I'll actually convert it into a supporting library because I think there's already a supporting library that will do that for me. Actually, no, there is. What's it called? It's under functions users. What's it called? Get Plexity profile, test user profile. Okay, testing a whole bunch of stuff. Update the profile. Okay, update user profile. That's what we use. So on your screen, if you go have a look at the functions directory, you can have a look at there's a plexg underscore users, and if you scroll down to a line 125, you're going to see update user profile.
Yep.
And basically what I've done is just got a as you can see there, you've got an object. Basically what it's trying to do is just save a file, so you can see it's converting something to JSON to a depth of 100, which is really not needed. It's a bit overkill. And then it's just outfiling that to that literal path, as you can see there. Not super like crazy, but still we can work with it. So first thing we need to do is we've got our ID. I think from what I remember, we've got the user object. So what I'm going to do is we're going to create an object. So we are in PowerShell 5, but I'm not going to create classes because it's just going to break everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a hash table object. I'm just going to call it htobj for the time being. Actually, no, we're going to call it what it is. We're going to call it the user. We're going to call this one. What should I call it? So what I'm doing is I'm kind of just humming, like I'm feeling out how the structure sits. So if you think about the structure here, you've got the user, we've got an ID, we have a username, we have a password, we have an enabled.
Password spelled wrong.
Yeah, no, I'm just kind of like humming it out. So basically that's going to sit in this nice little user thing. Now that's basically, there's another one that sits outside it, which is it's like a, just going to do this, equal to null. That sits outside it. I'm not going to, like, I'll show you later. I just can't be bothered showing you now. It's not really that important. But what we need to look at is this bad boy. And we also need full name, like that. So we got our hash tables that we've created. Generally, you got hash tables, you got classes. Everyone kind of flobs around. This specific project that I've been working predominantly works in hash tables. Now, to keep things consistent, I think I'm just going to keep hash tables because I'm concerned that like I don't honestly want to start chopping and changing. Like this product is pretty this product is pretty old. Like it's about 2 years old and I haven't touched it for ages and it's still not really it's not functional at all. But for the sake of this process, it's actually just a good thought experiment for you anyway. So in this instance, what we're doing is we've got our user profile, we've got our user, we're going to start generating some content there. So what I'm going to get you to do is, did I take you through hash tables?
No, not really.
Good. We're going to take you through hash tables, and then you can finish this code for me. And then I'm going to tell you it's shit, and we're going to do it again.
Hey, that's what I'm here for, right?
I was saying to one of my mates, Alex, at work, I was like, mate, I should be like the Gordon Ramsay of PowerShell scripters and like run like a Hell's Kitchen. Be like, that script is shit. That shit, get out! Just get out!
Get out of my computer!
Get out of my computer! Get off my session! No, no. And then I'm like, yeah, I feel like that'd be very entertaining, but at the same time, I feel like I won't get many people coming back. I'll be like,
no. That when you don't get the people coming back, that's when you create a reality TV show about it.
yeah. There's a really good saying. Like even though, like to be honest, like that, it's just it's a bit abusive, but like there's a really good saying that basically says like, pride is, what's it, um, how does it go? It says, anesthesia, um, ego is the anesthesia that dulls the pain of stupidity. Is it?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds about right.
Yeah, ego is the anesthesia that dulls the pain of stupidity. So I'm like, with anything with PowerShell, like I'm like, man, give me all the PowerShell in the world because I'm gonna learn and learn and learn. And I don't particularly want to just be that guy who's like, this is how you do it, and it's actually wrong. But I'm like set fixed in my way. So I'm like, I will love to learn all the different things and then try and get different things. But it's really funny though because like I was looking at a script a couple of weeks ago and there was like this guy and he was like, it was so bad, like, oh man, it was so bad. It was such a crap script, and I was like, oh man, this is like if honestly if that person was in front of me, it would have been like, mate, yeah, you probably should consider on potentially going to some training courses. It was really bad.
Yeah, but I mean, we all start somewhere, right?
Yeah, oh mate, this was production code, man, and I get like this is one of the things
Oh dear.
I get really pissed about is if I see production code and I can't like read it because it's so badly written or like there's no comments or anything like that. Oh man, like, and I can understand. Okay, this is the thing. There's two types of differences. You got code where you basically run that, but it will work like, and then over time configuration changes and that code will eventually break. It's like any sort of old game. Like old games don't run on Windows 10 anymore because it's relying on libraries that just don't exist. So it's that whole concept. Try and install Internet Explorer 3 on your computer and see what happens. And I tell you now, it's gonna like completely blue screen your machine because I tried it and it blue screen. And that was on Windows XP.
Oh, that's a shame. Although I have to admit, I'm very tempted to try find a copy of Windows 3.1
Oh
and just
man.
rock up somewhere with that and load that and see people just shake their head at me.
Oh, no, 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 no. This is what you do. This is what you do. Basically, you grab Windows 3.1, you jump on the machine, and basically replace all the VMs with Windows 3.1 and try and watch them try and work out what the hell is going on. Like, that would be so good. That would be what, like, one of the guys actually, I think it was one of the guys was when I was working at Allscript, that was telling me that one of the guys went away on leave, so as a prank, they basically reinstalled Windows 95 on his desktop, and he comes back and he's trying to work out what the hell is going on. Like, I'm like, man, that is serious. Like, 'cause the thing is, you got to remember, like Windows 95, okay, no driver support for Windows 95 now. So like, you try and install a chipset driver, it doesn't work. So you got to find the hardware that like Windows 95 can still recognize and support. Basically support like a mouse, support a monitor. Like obviously you can't plug it like a decent graphics card in it because it can't support the actual the that specific drivers. Like they just don't exist anymore. So anyway, back on the hash tables. So basically, hash tables, what we call hash tables, or what we call key value pairs. So what I mean by that is it's a like you have it. You know how you run your traditional PowerShell object. You have properties, what we call properties. So you got your object and properties.
Yep.
Hash tables are what we call key values. They're a little bit different, but they follow the same principle. So we've got a key equals value. Can you see my execution on my console?
No.
No? Okay, let me just quickly drag that out and I'll just share it with
Under
you.
the debug console or under
Yeah, the
output?
debug. Let me see if I can make it read right. Can you see this? If I can do a right host. Can you see that in the terminal?
No.
Damn it.
I mean, if
Like I'm sharing, if you click on terminal,
Yeah, no, I just did a test one. Hang on. Now I can.
You can?
Yeah.
Good.
So all I did was change. So there's three options.
Yeah, you've got them down
PowerShell
here.
shared. Yeah, you got
Yeah.
PowerShell shared, PowerShell integrated console
Yep.
shared, and then the integrated console.
Yep.
So.
Perfect. You got integrated console. Perfect. Okay. Object. Let's create an object.
Right.
Sure, we'll just create a key value. Oh, it also helps if VS Code's not really like something that I like a lot, because I love writing code in it. I just don't like one of the things I love about the ISC is you can just copy and paste code and execute it natively and thing. So if I call that, you can see there's the name, there's the value. So there's the key, there's the value.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of it's still callable. So if I go .key, it's going to print out value. And so
if you went a value, it would punch out key.
No. So you have to specify. Actually, no. Okay. Yes, it can, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. But in this instance, the key thing to take away is basically the fact that you have hash table key value pair. So your key is key. The property name is key, and it's going to return the string value because that's what we define here. So as the key is key, and the value is value. So
if I'm reading that correctly, the key for, say, the user profile, you've got key is user and another key is full name, and the values for both of those is null.
Correct. 100% correct. Perfect. Look at that. Right on the money, mate. Right on the money. All right, so we're gonna have some fun now. So what I need you to do, I'll get you to fix that up. So you can grab those fix them up. So fix those items up. They need to be fixed up. So username will just equate to username like so, but they need to be the same as that. So while you're doing that, I need you to populate that entire list out. So for each of these items in that list here, they all need to be keys, and then basically just make them equals, and then we'll what we'll do is we'll go through each of them, and I'll get you to do specific things for them. So once we've got that, while you're working on that, I will be working on this. So I'm going to build a profile. User profile. Full name. What's it called? Session token. I have to admit, I love this. I love the whole
collaborative thing.
Yeah, that is really cool. That's one of the coolest things I've ever had. This is collaborative effort. Yeah. Okay, so it's really important as well within this. While it's not important within PowerShell, because PowerShell is not, it's case insensitive by default. But in other languages that we will be working, like this will work in, it's case sensitive. So like JavaScript, that's case sensitive. So we need to make sure that all our properties are basically exact. If they're not, JavaScript chucks a wobbly, and then we're having issues. So while you're doing that, I'm going to have a quick squiggy and the word is squiggy. I'm going to have a quick look at the directory. Okay, we need to build out a directory.
Okay, and then you said that they all need to be like $username, $ID. Yeah.
No, so we're going to do some funky stuff because we don't know what the ID is, so we need to generate these. So what I'm doing at the moment is kind of hunting around for supporting libraries because I'm pretty sure I wrote something that get user profile literal path. I kind of need to actually have a look for something at the moment. Authentication, what's in there? Okay. Oh, mate, this is why I love it. This is why I love it. I'm like, I wrote all the supporting libraries, so I don't even have to do any of the heavy lifting. It's fantastic. So hang on one sec. Pull XG, use the oh, actually no, because it's prior to the configuration. So I'm just gonna. It's really hilarious though, because I'm looking at my code and I'm like, that's really bad. Like I wouldn't have done that like back in the day. But anyway, so as you can see, like this is old code that I've wrote, like really old code. If you scroll to 9.3, you can see that like I'm concatenating completely differently than what I did previously.
Yeah.
So like previously, this is how I concatenated, but now I concatenate with string format. So I'm just going to fix it up. I know I shouldn't because I'm probably going to break something, but you know what? It's new me. I'm gonna fix it up. So we got our sexiness in there. I'm just gonna comment delimitate that. Look at that. That's super sexy. That doesn't really mean anything. Actually, do you remember what that means?
Hang on.
Line 93. Line 93.
Line 93. That was the one where you. No, I don't.
Okay, I'll quickly take this through. So let's go var. You'll literally get this in 2 seconds. This is the best way to explain it. So I'm just going to chuck them in the console. So you can var and var2. So if I go 0 and 1 /f var 2. Whoops. Helps if I'm not like I'm putting string terminating my code. That'd be fantastic, Michael. So I've done that. Do that. There you go. So basically, what it's doing is it's concatenation. It's doing string concatenation based on the format. So I'm deriving where what we call the index value. So these are the indexes starting from 0. So remember everything when we're talking. Remember I was talking arrays and everything starts with 0. In this same instance, it starts with 0. So we're basically this is just if you'd say it's just a loosely bound array to these. So you got 0, 1. So that's 0, that's 1. So when you see anything like that with a curly brace with a 0 and a 1 inside it, even if you do see things like this as well, because this is really what it's used for, things like that, that's basically telling like PowerShell to format the string. Like, so let's say you want to get a percentage of the last 2 digits, like that's how you format it. It's really cool. Like, it is one of the coolest things ever to do that. Like, that's why I love PowerShell so much.
Okay.
So
what's the F mean?
The F basically says to PowerShell, it's an operator. It says to PowerShell format. It's just basically format. So when you see things like that, that's what it's doing. So we'll keep cracking on because we've actually it's coming up to 4 p.m. We've got like another 20 minutes, and I don't particularly want to. I want to kind of make sure we get this done quickly because we'll be here all day if we don't, and just be muttering around by ourselves. So once we've done that, we've basically got our bits and pieces. So we've got our directory path. This is really important because we've got to write it somewhere. So I've got this script path variable, which is here, and then I've got this object called col server configuration dot server configuration dot user path.
Yep.
That's basically a configuration item that basically tells this is where the user path is. I'll show it to you later so you can have a bit of a squiz, but basically it's just something that we won't do it loud now because we kind of got to get this done.
Yep.
So all it is, they're just variables realistically. They're just basically that's a string, and we're just building in a string array. So we're formatting a string. So now we actually need to have some fun. First thing we need to do is we need to generate an ID. So I kind of like this is just like I want you to write this. There's a we need to generate the ID. We're going to use this thing called GUID. We're going to generate a GUID. A GUID is basically a globally unique identifier. And for us to generate a GUID, we just do this. GUIDs are really good because if you want to generate something that's generally unique, use that. It's not 100% unique. It's a really easy way to do like generate it like a quick ID or something that
Yep.
basically in this instance as you can see there I've just pasted new GUID and we've got our nice sexy GUID. Now keep in mind we've got a GUID property, so the ID is the same as the full name. So the GUID needs to be, so the full name, basically what goes in here is a path. I'm going to get you to sort this out. So we got the path here. Let's just say that's C test test test, and then we're going to have an ID, and then we're going to put JSON on the end. So you're going to do your very first string formatting here, but we need to generate an ID, and then that ID also needs to go in here. So using those two things, so you got the GUID, generating a new GUID, you need to generate, we need to put that GUID that we just generated in both those spots. So it can't be separate, it has to be the same. I'll get you to do that. While you do that, I am going to set these other values. You can continue, you can ask questions if you want, but
Yeah. So that to generate the new GUID, that's just how it is, as is.
it's missing something, so you need to specify the GUID property. So I want you to do that.
Okay.
So remember how we did it last time? I want you to do that. I'm just going to mute for a sec. I'm just
Okay.
I'm just going to quickly go AFK for a sec. Do I have a screen? Yes, I got a screen. Cool. I'm just going to quickly go AFK for a sec. All right, I'm back.
Okay.
Just eating some ice cream at the moment.
Ah, sounds delicious.
Yeah. Oh. All right. I'm going to stop you there for a sec because I want you to draw your attention back to the console. So when we generate a new GUID, let's write it out. We've done that, all right?
Yep.
So the property is called GUID. There's your clue.
The property.
So the property.
Right.
This is can you see me highlighting on the console, the terminal?
No.
Okay, so when you see how you got new GUID, and then underneath it you got GUID, and then a like hyphen.
Yep.
That's basically that's that's telling you that GUID, GUID, is a property.
Okay.
So what we want to do is we're going to want to store that item as a variable in memory.
Right.
So remember how we create variables?
That's with the dollar sign, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
So that's your first. So I want you to work on the GUID property. So if you're not sure, work it on in here. So like work it down in the terminal. Like you can execute code. I don't really care. So I could go new GUID. GUID. So you can work on it and down there. But that's basically like I want you to I've kind of given you your answer. I kind of want you to put that piece of code together.
Right.
Man, it's hot. I was tempted to turn the AC on, and I was like, oh. Then it's gonna be like. Okay. We just got a notification. It's at the wrong type, and it's
Okay.
created wrong keyframe interval.
Oh.
Okay. It's 30 frames, not 60. Derp. Derp. Derpity. Derp. Derp. Derpity. Derp. Derpity. Derp. Derp. Derpity. Derp. Derp. Derpity. Derp. Boop. 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 Derpity. Deep. Deep. Derpity. Hop. Hop. Hoppity. Hum. 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 Dum. Bum. Derpity. Bum. Bum. Bitty. Bitty. Bum. 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 Derpity. Bum. Bum. Derpity. Bum. 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 How you going? So remember. Oh, you left the collaboration session. Did you drop out? I think he's just dropped out. Ah, it's alright. Bump, bumpity, bump, bump, ba-da-ba-dee, bump, ba-da-ba-dee, bump, bum, 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 bumpity, bump, bump, ba-da-ba-dee, bump. Just wait for him to join back on. You there? Beep, 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 beep.
I just got disconnected from your session.
Yeah, I think you just like your internet must have dropped out for a sec. So you can just rejoin and you'll jump back in. Derp,
Okay.
derpity, bup, bup, ba-da-ba-dee, herp,
Yep,
herp,
that's pretty much how it goes. The derp.
It's really cool though. I love the live collaboration. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Let me just. Do you need another link?
No, it should just automatically reconnect me. If
I'll just resend it just in case.
Cancel there.
Send you another link just in case.
Well, can you see me typing?
I don't even see you on the server. No.
Okay. Because I still got.
Yeah, you probably downloaded it, but you haven't actually. You're still not on the actual server.
Okay.
You've got a copy of my code.
Okay, can you see me now?
I can't see participants. I don't see you in the participant list.
Okay.
Just try and join off the the link I sent you.
Well, I'll just close what I've got here. Do you want me to save it or not?
Don't save it. It's already on mine anyway, so it's fine.
Okay. I'll just try rejoin. There we go.
We'll just see if you popped up.
It's doing the same thing again.
Is it?
This is yeah, you gotta love technical difficulties, am I right?
It's like, please stand by, experiencing technical difficulties.
Dear.
Mate, that's all good though. It's all good, mate. It's all good.
But yeah, at the moment, just thinking on that GUID one. I get that you said it's got the property, and the property comes after the object, which is why there'd be a dot there.
Yep.
So you'd get your GUID in brackets, double colon, new GUID,
yep.
parentheses. Oh, crying out loud. Okay. Kill that. Close that. But yeah, it's what to put after that part. I mean, like you said, it would need to be because the full name field and the ID field need to be populated, yeah? Or are they what affects the...
So the full name and the ID field have to be populated with the same GUID. They're a direct link between the two.
Okay.
So what I did was I went ID $ID equals GUID, then new GUID, and then dot GUID. So remember, dot specifies your property. So if you want to get the property, you just go dot GUID, because that's, remember, the property name's GUID. So now this is the thing I want you to kind of start thinking about in terms of logic solving and programming. Is, okay, you've got this full name, which is going to be a user, that's going to be a file, which is going to be a user profile file. Then how are you going to if it's going to be a file, the first thing we need to do is, I don't trust, even if a GUID might be 50% correct, even if it might be 99.9% correct, you can't be 100% sure to basically say that that GUID is going to be unique. So if that file name exists, because ultimately we're going to write that file name string will be the file name.
Okay.
So that means that we need to test if that file exists. Because if it doesn't exist, then we're happy. But if it does exist, we need to go generate a new GUID. So these are the things that kind of, in terms of problem solving, you kind of got to start thinking about. So if, because we're working with a file and we were trying to name that file, but we can't be 100% sure that that file doesn't exist, we need to validate that. And so what we can do here, is what you might try and do is uninstall live share and then reinstall it, because I can kind of just talk while you're
Yeah,
trying to do that.
I've done that, but
Yeah.
I've had to go uninstall it because the same issue occurred where it decided that I didn't have um, the button in my toolbar.
Yeah, okay.
So I might have to keep jumping back versions.
No, you shouldn't have to. I think there's something weird going on there. I think we might just need a full repair on Visual Studio. Um, Great tool though, just it's a pain that it doesn't work sometimes. Um, you might just jump back a version for the time being, and we'll just continue to chat while we're doing it. So, and I kind of want you to kind of think, like, go along with me in the logic thought. So, because we need to test whether the file exists or not. Now, we can't be 100% certain that it will happen any of the time. So, what I mean by that is, like, let's say you go, okay, test the file exists. Okay, it doesn't exist. Great, we've got a file. If it does exist, we're going to then basically we're going to have to create a new one.
Yep.
But this is the problem. What happens if it generates another file? Like, we generate another GUID and it exists. We're going to create a new one. But how many times are we going to create a new one? Like, and this is where it comes down to I want you to start thinking about looping. And looping is really powerful because looping will pretty much solve this issue right here. Like, it'll solve this issue dead in its tracks. So what we can do there is basically we can put a loop into the script. So basically, what it does is it continues to loop and goes, generate a GUID. Does that GUID will that GUID have a file name? Oh, sorry. Generate a GUID. Does that file name with the GUID on it exist? Does it exist? Okay, go back and generate another GUID. And then rinse and repeat until it actually finishes the loop. So that's one of the things that is really good in terms of why you use loops, because we want to make sure that that file is unique, and rather than having to have like hard-coded steps, you can basically just have a single loop in three. Like, we can have it, no joke, we could literally have this in like 3 lines of code, and then basically it'll just run until it's done. Now, I don't think there's a very small chance that it'll probably, like, the chances of it being like not unique after a period of time is usually like after like 10 runs. Like, there's a pretty good chance it's going to be hit something. Like, having a GUID, like, it's designed to be globally unique, so it shouldn't even have to hit the first time around. Like, it shouldn't have to loop the first time, but there's a small chance it might. So you can't actually just, like, you never assume in programming, because the moment you assume in something, things can go skew if. And I had a job today which I was working on, where what happened was I was actually I had a client that basically came to me and said, this is an issue that we're having with all these notebooks having the wrong owners attached to them. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, this just, like, I'm looking at it from a scripting perspective. It just doesn't make sense. It just cannot make sense. Like, and I was sitting there for ages trying to work out why the case it was doing that. Now, one of the things that the script didn't have, it didn't have any proper trace logging. It didn't have any sort of logging whatsoever. So for me to be able to troubleshoot it was actually really difficult. And one of the things I had to do was basically reduce the script down into its core logic, and in my mind basically step through the program. And then I found specific lines where when the author wrote it, assumed specific circumstances that would that were guaranteed. But those circumstances, like, at that time were fine, but later they changed. And because they changed, that circumstance caused the script to run skew-iftly, start to run with anomalies. And then basically then I had to actually start to, once I saw that, I had to actually stop and go, okay, what's PowerShell's default issue, like, execution, when it comes to this specific type of when we call a non-terminating error? What happens with the variable? How does it, like, what those kinds of situations? So it's really important where in this kind of circumstance, that's why we never assume, because if you assume, and in some circumstances you are going to make an ass out of you and me. So yeah, How you going with it?
You mean the signing in or the program side?
Oh no, no. Did you get connected back to
No,
like?
no, it just keeps dropping. So
Okay, I
um,
think you need to uninstall code and reinstall it, but we'll crack on. You can just follow along with me on the code, and I'll just like
okay,
on worst comes to worst, you can just
uh,
jump on the stream, and then you can kind of see what I'm doing while I'm on my screen anyway. So that's another option. I'll just
okay. There will be a couple of seconds delay there.
yeah, that's fine. I think well, for the time being, that'll be fine. I'll just send you that. Like, that's on your Discord chat. I'm
I
just
already found it on YouTube.
oh, okay, fantastic. So as you can see on my screen here, we've defined our content, and basically I'm generating my GUID. So we need to loop it through to add some bits and pieces. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a do. You remember how we had a do and we had a
Yeah,
while?
the do until and the do while.
Yeah. So we also we had a while condition. It also helps if I can spell. And then we had do until or while. In this instance, we don't want to use the while loop because the while loop is evaluating the condition at the beginning. We
Yeah,
want it to enter the loop because if you think about it, hypothetically we could put it in the while loop. We can rejig it, but for ease's sake purpose, it's easier just for it to go into the do loop and then start executing on the code. If the condition evaluates to be true on the do loop, it's only going to be executed once. So it's basically, there's no real issue there. So let's just jump in and let's just go, all right. So the first thing we need to do is I always comment. I'm going to be like loop until a unique GUID is generated. So once we've done that, I'm then going to generate a new GUID. I'm going to go new GUID. So there's my properties. I'm now then going to actually think about what I'm doing here. I'm thinking about how I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do it for this way. I'm just going to do it this way. Alright, so I'm going to go file path, directory paths, like so. And I'm going to go .json. I'm going to go 0. I'm going to put a nice 1 there. I'm going to go. Is it just .json? Let's have a look now. I'm kind of like, what is it? What is it? Oh crap! I can't remember what the file name's called. Give me 2 secs, mate. What's the file name called? Functions, config. I moved them all out because that's the thing you do. That's fine. That's fine.
do you have the extensions in there too?
Yeah, I've got tons of extensions installed.
No, I meant the VS Live Share extension pack.
Yeah, I got the extension package right there.
Yeah, no, I just thought I would check because that way I can match my installation to yours, so to speak.
Oh yeah, I can send you my settings. So I've got so we generate our file path. We got our GUID. To be honest, I'm gonna do something because it's really cool. We don't actually even need that variable. We can just shrink it down. The reason why is because if we're formatting on here, it's just easier to do it on here. So I'm just gonna do that and wrap it in a parentheses.
You've put fill path in, or have you corrected that already?
I've corrected it.
Okay, cool.
So we got our file path. We basically built our file path, which is good. I'm storing it as a variable because we're going to be calling it multiple times, and then I'm just going to go until test path, literal path, file path, error action, silently continue until it exists. So remember test path, the commandlet test path evaluates to be true all the time. Sorry, that just totally didn't make any sense whatsoever. Test path evaluates to be true or false all the time. That again didn't make sense because I'm just not thinking about what I'm saying. Test path basically evaluates to either true or false. It doesn't evaluate to anything else. Because of that, I can just put the commandlet straight into the until. So remember how we were talking about the if statement, how everything it always boils down to a true or false.
Yeah.
Test path is true or false, so I don't need to do anything else. I don't even need to say is equal to true, because the way PowerShell works is it natively evaluates to true. So what that means that if this returns true, then it's true. If it returns false, it'll loop because it's expecting a true statement. Now, if I basically said is equal to false or is not, then it will basically evaluate the opposite. But in this instance, I can just do that. So as you can see, that's like 3 lines of code. I can clean it up a little bit more, but to be honest, I think that's fine. The file string, and then basically loop until the. Oh, whoa! I just made a huge boo-boo. It doesn't exist. I actually need to flip it because what I'm saying there is exit a loop until it exists. I'm just going to put a not there. Or I can just do this. I could just say while it exists. That's probably a cleaner way. That looks cleaner. Yeah, that looks cleaner. So what I did there is, you see I've got file path, and then basically I'm just saying while, keep looping while it exists. And if it doesn't exist, that's fine. Like, we're perfect. We're good to go. We're locked and loaded. So now we've got our file path. What we can do here now is I can actually have a bit of a hum and ha. I'm going to now build out our file path structure. So we're building out our hash table here. So I'm building out a hash table. Oh, whoa, Michael, you just made another big boo-boo. Well, I built out my file path, but I actually haven't defined my ID. I actually can't take a shortcut because I need to use that variable. So define the GUID. And because remember, this ID, like that can't just go into there. That only can go into the file name. Like that can only go in here. So I actually need to put that in there, which means I need to generate that separately and then bring that in like so. Does that make sense?
I'm a bit behind in time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I totally forgot. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, no, whilst this is going on, I'm still trying to get this Visual Studio Code to work, but it's just being difficult as well.
Okay. What we can do is we can forget about it for the time being. We'll finish this little bit today. I'm going to stop it soon because like we're pretty much like we're going on for a little while now, and I kind of like we need to wrap things up fairly soon. But what we probably going to do is we'll just finish this up. So what I want to do is I want to at least generate the object and get the object ready to roll. So what we've got here is our ID, we've got our file path, we've got our awesomeness. So it's fairly sexy at the moment. We've got our ID defined, our file path. We're looping until it evaluates to be, while it's evaluating to be true, which means until it evaluates to be false, then it jumps out. We're going to now build out our strings. So what we can do here is we can basically go full name is file path, yay, like so. So we set the variable file path on 107 to on 117 to be file path. So full name now is file path. We've got a sexy string that's been evaluated, and that's all good to go. Now we need to then set the user ID. So we have that set, so we can set that up. So we can just go ID. We're now going to generate a password. So this is actually fairly easy to do. There's a couple of ways you can do it. What we're going to do for the time being, just because I don't want to talk about sub-expressions today, because that's just a little complicated. We're just going to set the default password to be password. We're going to set the account's going to be enabled by default. So we're going to set the enabled attribute, I mean, if I'm working in MIM too long. We're going to set the enabled key to be true. We've got the lockout. So basically the lockout information is when you log in too many times badly, it'll actually lock you out. So we're going to set that to be false. We've got timers, all that's set to 0. That's fine. And then we're generating a user token, a session token. And this is actually, that's some really cool code. Like, the way that security works is actually really quite cool. But I'll take you through that later because that's not something we need to talk about now. We kind of need to kind of get this finished.
Yeah.
So we're pretty much done. Like that's pretty much the like the bits and pieces. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to assemble the profile. So we need to attach user to user profile. You know what? I'm just going to do this. This is easier. Like so. Does that make sense when you see it? Can I put?
I might be.
Oh yeah, you're a couple of seconds behind.
I mean, at the moment your cursor's down on enabled, writing in true.
Oh, okay, yep. Yeah, you're a little bit behind. Define the. And we're gonna call it call user JSON. So I'm just gonna call it user profile. And then we're going to and do that. Success. It's going to do a write output. Yeah. Not going to dump that data out. That doesn't need to be dumped out. Okay. That's. Just feel free to stop me anytime, mate, because I'm probably like confusing you. Yeah, I think I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but you can kind of see.
Well, I mean, having a read through the code, a lot of it actually did make sense.
It's just the thing is like when it's like from a coding perspective, it's being able to understand that hey, I've got a piece of code. All right, great, that's good. But then basically building the logic and then making it smarter. So like not writing code so that it's like writing code smarter rather than like writing more lengthy code. So you just kind of like what I'm doing here and there. You can probably see me adding little bits here, doing this. What I'm doing is I'm just literally like I'm just writing some quick bits and pieces here and there. And I'm just going to totally return a clear text password because like you know, YOLO.
You sure you don't mean swag there?
YOLO. Or mega YOLO.
That one I don't know. I'm a bit behind the times when it comes to...
Oh, I have no idea either. Like the other day, like one of the guys at work keeps like getting me with this thing, and I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. I just don't understand, and it's something about nuts, and I'm like, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I'm like, he's going to continue to get me until I write some sort of like code to mitigate that problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like the guys I work with. They keep on doing this thing called a whip, and I think it's where you like you just turn your wrist over or something like that. And I keep asking, what is it about? And they just look at me and go, dude, you need to get with the times.
And you're like, dude.
Yeah.
Where's my car? Have you seen Dude, Where's My Car? And they're like, no. And you're like, dude, where's my car? You should just be like, hang up the phone. They'll be like, say what?
Oh, we do have a guy who tries to be Gordon Ramsay though, but he keeps on calling the room we're in a kitchen when it's anything but.
Oh, I should totally jump on there and just be the Gordon Ramsay of PowerShell. Oh no, of IT. I'd be like, that's not how you plug an Ethernet cable in. Get out!
That's not a server!
You call that a server? Get out!
It's only got 8 gig of RAM!
Yeah.
Where's the other 8?
What are you doing? You call that a domain controller?
Yeah, just daft.
You're like
that.
you took 1 hour to install a domain controller? Get out! Actually, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna pull up some code for you because this is really funny. I'm gonna show you how many lines of code it takes to install a domain controller. This is just like commercial code, so everyone out there probably know. Like if you're out there, you know about it. Where is it? Scripts. There it is. I'm just making sure I don't have passwords or anything in my test domain controller. Just remove DNS. Just do a Control G. Sorry, 2 secs.
No, so like same sort of issue still. It's just I've tried complete reinstall.
So this is how you install domain controller, right? This is a bad script, but like I just use this for like when I need to spin up a domain controller fast. Like the other day, I had to spin up an Active Directory forest, which I haven't had to do for a very long time, to test a MIM installation script, because we have to test before we install it on a client site. So basically, I'm going to rename the computer because you got to rename computer. Computer generates with a default computer name. I'm installing the Windows features, so you got AD domain services, DNS, and group policy management console. I'm setting my IP address up, so I'm setting a static IP. I'm setting my default DNS to be 127.0.0.1, which is the loopback. So it's the machine that's currently pointing to it. So it's just pointing back to itself. Rebooting the computer, and then basically this is how you install domain controller. That one line. So install AD DS forest. And I'm just like, yep. Set your database path, domain mode. My domain name's contoso.local. There's the contoso. What kind of forest I'm putting on there? Yeah, I want to install DNS. There's the logs. Don't reboot. Set the sysvol path there, and force it install. To be honest, I could actually just remove line 27 and then just comment 22 to be true. That will just reboot automatically. And then once I've done that, then I basically set a DNS forwarder on the DNS server that is on the domain controller, and I forward that to my DNS server.
Haven't you essentially specified that you want it to reboot on completion anyway?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I could just exactly. Like this is what I just kind of threw together. So like I could actually just change that value to be true, and then I can get rid of line 20.
If you changed it to be true, you would need your restart computer line. But with it, it's false because the command is no reboot on completion.
Yeah.
So if your no reboot on completion is false.
Oh yeah, it's a double negative. Yeah, true. Yeah, no, that's right. Like I could just you're right. So I don't even need it.
Comment out the restart
27. Yeah, I don't. Like, to be honest, you don't even really need it, but like I kind of I just did it for the sake of doing it. But it shows you how, like, oh crap, I just totally destroyed my script. It shows you how easy it is to like install domain control. Anyway, back to this. So we've pretty much finished our code. So what we've done, build out the profile, check for errors. I actually have to fix this up. Like this code's really old. Like I mean, like I would never check. This is like nowadays I would never do this, which is basically checking, validating. You don't validate if a property exists by doing this. I wrote a function called test object property, and it's really important because traditionally, if you test properties this way, if the property is a Boolean value, so what I mean, remember it's either a true or false. And if I basically say, okay, let's say I'm testing if the property doesn't exist, and the property name, let's say, is called error, and the value of the property is false, and I basically say if return update file dot error, let's say I say is equal to false, assuming that it doesn't exist, well, guess what? It does exist and it evaluates the false, and that if statement is legitimate. So you do not do that. Like that's a really dirty man's way of actually evaluating properties. Like, because if the property evaluates to be false and it basically the condition is met, it will be then true. So don't do that. Yeah, anyway, that pretty much, yeah. So in terms of, we'll just go through the code. Lots of filler code up here, as you can see. In terms of the core parts of the code, this is pretty much it. Like, you can see that's not much code. Like, it's spaced out. Like, obviously, you know, it's quite nicely spaced out, but realistically, it's what, 15 lines of code. So we can create a new user. Oh, sorry, we're just creating a new user. What we're accepting is a session token, user token, and username. I'm just printing out dirty there. We're specifying some paths. I am testing, make sure the function library exists, so it's actually going to be able to call its supporting libraries. I'm going to test the configuration for the server, because nothing sucks more than having bad server configuration. Following that, then basically all my bits and bobs are loaded. Now we can authenticate. So actually, no, we're not. We're actually testing for server maintenance. So if the server's under maintenance, so if I'm doing stuff, I can set a value on the server configuration, and I can say, server's under maintenance, don't do anything, and then basically it'll go, oh, I'm under maintenance, I'm not actioning your request, fob off. So it's really good.
Well, in that case, wouldn't you want it to write to the host server under maintenance?
No, because what I'm doing is I'm writing what we call writing output, and writing output. So when you do, like, what if I do get process, for example, that's a write output. What I mean by that is basically you've got different streams of content that can be sent to the screen, or sent to the PowerShell's pipeline. Write output sends an object to the output of the PowerShell, the pipeline stream of PowerShell. What that means is that basically I can take that data and I can send it somewhere, or I can work with it in the pipeline. So if I was doing get, like for example, this won't work, but if I went add user, I could actually pipe it and say mail message to like username, like something like that. So I can actually take the output from that write output and then put it into the next part of the pipeline. So that's what write output does. Write host only prints to the screen. But in this instance, we don't want to print to the screen, because this script is running on a box out in the sticks. So it doesn't actually need to be, printing to the screen. So that's pretty much it in terms of code. So like, it's pretty basic, as you can see. Like, it's not really that much. Like, so I think the biggest thing is that basically it's just obviously for yourself is actually understanding the logic. So why I did what I did. So in this instance, you can see I've got loop until a unique GUID is generated, define the GUID, build out the file string, and loop until the file doesn't exist. Once it doesn't exist, obviously we know the file doesn't exist. We can create the file. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So I think, do you have any questions? Like, you want to ask me questions, because I do think that probably might be able to help. Or if any of you viewers as well, if you want to ask questions, definitely throw them in the stream chat, and we can chat about it.
Just the you do in while statement. Didn't you say if it's a while statement, it'll read the whole thing and then execute? Or
okay. So when we're talking do and while, so when we're talking, okay, I know what you're talking about now. So as you can see with the do statement on 103 here, you basically, the script is going to hit that do statement. Now, there's no condition on the top of it, because it's not a while statement. A while statement allows you to have a condition prior to execution, where a do statement will actually automatically enter the loop and start executing code. So that's the difference between the two types of looping. So while the while statement down the bottom, what the while statement is saying is basically saying do while the path exists. So what it's saying is, if the path exists, continue to loop. which is great because we don't want the path to exist. So we're actually kind of going the opposite in terms of once the path is unique and it's not legitimate, oh sorry, when it is legitimate and it's not another file name, then basically then exit the loop. So we're basically kind of changing the way that the do loop is processed. So if you wanted to swap it around, you could actually go like to make it a bit more sense. You could actually go until not. So what that basically says is it says keep looping until that condition is met. So while the other way around is basically do while that condition is currently being met. So once the condition is not being met, which is the path doesn't exist, then jump out. So does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yes.
So in terms of like the do loops and all those kinds of things, your while loops and do loops definitely fall like they do have like they're used in different circumstances. So you can't just say, hey, use one over the other. Like they both have their own merit and their own like what's the word, like they have their own place in code. So in this instance, for me, it's just easier to use a while statement because then it makes my code look a little neater, where an until would have to basically negate the actual condition. So so obviously we've got our hash tables here. I kind of want to explain that a little bit to you as well. So hash tables, as you can see, you've got your hash table, which is as what you would expect. And basically I'm putting inside another hash table. So we've got this user value here, the key, and then the value I'm defining is another hash table. So you can actually nest hash tables inside of hash tables inside of hash tables inside of hash table. That's the beauty about object-oriented programming, is that you can nest objects within objects within objects within objects within objects within objects. Not the best thing to do, but in this circumstance it works really well because basically we want to actually nest that data is actually how the JSON file is structured. So if you actually have a look at the JSON file, it's structured with it'll be structured as follows. So it'll go like that data file will be like user, and then within that it'll be like something like this. It'll be like ID is Michael. This will just say is 1. Username is Michael. And then basically outside that you would then have another one which would then be full name, so which would be like this. Actually no, sorry, what am I doing? It wouldn't be like that, it'll be like this. It'll just be like c/windows/random.txt. So does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So that's pretty much like hash tables and its element. I kind of like what I might do is we're gonna probably be working on this like on and off. So this will probably be something that even off camera we'll be working on, because at the end of the day though, it helps you obviously refine your skills. So when you have a bit of time, you might as well just jump in and help. Like I'll give you a couple of tasks that you can do, and you can just jump in and help out. I'll get you to create a GitHub account, because then basically I can link you the like I can actually add you as a cloned a person, and you can then basically then do what you need to do. Like you can then just start working with the code. A lot of the code I'm working, especially with this, is all front end, and obviously you can just then I can show you how to work with it. But then obviously, I watched the I was watching like on the Facebook like drinking games. It was like the How I Met Your Mother Robin drinking game. It was like where every time she says you have to have a drink. And she's like they're like we're being trapped, and it's like we have to drink, and it's like oh no, she knows that we're watching. It's like, but we have to drink, it's the rules. So and then finally here we're creating the profile. So I'm just going to create the file. So what I'm doing here is I've got this yeah, that'll work. I've got this that commandlet called update user profile. And that basically is causing, that's basically writing the file. So it's an easier way, like that's got a whole bunch of extra fault checking in it that, like if the file's currently been locked and things like that. So I can just swap that out. But realistically, all it's really doing is it's just basically going, it's just doing this. It's just going like, user profile. And then we're using the convert to JSON because it's a JSON. That stuff here, this is all JSON. And it's just depth 100. And then basically just going out file, little path, and then it's just going that. And that's pretty much it. Like that's really all it's doing. So it's just basically simplifying that because it's got a whole bunch of other checks. So if the file's locked, it'll loop and try again a little bit later. So that's about it.
Okay.
If anyone online has any questions, yeah, feel free to throw some in now or later. I'm about to jump off, so I think yeah we can just tie it up there for today, and then we can we'll pick it up next Wednesday and keep cracking on. In the meantime, you can feel free to jump in and edit because at the end of the day, though, many hands make light work. Yeah, and we can go from there. Cool. Anyway, thanks guys. Hope to see you guys soon. Later.